Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Federal. My name is Naved Anjum, and I'm joined today by a very special guest, author KR Meera, who is one of the finest fiction writers and prolific at that. She has written 5 novels, 6 novellas, 6 collections of short fiction, 2 novels for children, and 2 collections of essays in Malayalam. A former journalist with Malayalam Manorama, she has received numerous literary prizes, including the Kerala Sahitya Academy Award. A number of her works have been translated into English. They include Jezebel, Hangwoman, The Poison of Love. She has recently come out with her latest novel that's called Assassinate. Meera, welcome to the show of the Federal, this episode of the Federal.
Thank you, Navod, and thank you, the Federal.
Let's, without much ado, let's just begin with the novel. Of course, there's a great deal to talk when it comes to an author like you, and considering your body of work, and when it comes to this assassin, it's of course has been translated from your original Malayalam novel, Ghathakan by J. Devika, who is a feminist historian, social researcher based in Tirunelveli only, right? So
yes,
right. So this is Meera. This is of course your most personal, but also most ambitious novel till date. And in terms of canvas, also it's sort of really different from your previous work. And I wanted to begin with a question about: do you see it as a political novel and as a novel that has a commentary on contemporary politics, on the kind of nation that that India has become, on the kind of society that we have become?
See, Nawad, everything personal is political too, or everything political is personal too. In that way, yes, each work of mine is political. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, it is very personal in the sense that I give a lot of me, or I put a lot of me into each of my works. But in this case, this is important to me, or this is different in the sense that this is the first time I have attempted to record the times of my generation, or the times in which my generation has lived. Then I found that it has been in that journey, actually, we were taking part in the transformation of our nation as well. And this was really very important to me in the sense that I was reliving those times, reliving my life, the lives of many of the women close to me, my friends, someone who have shared their stories with me, everything. All those stories collectively made me realize that it's the story of our nation, or the story of the transformation of our nation, or the shift from one point to another, which is very significant with the politics of this country.
Right, absolutely. It's also very interesting, Meera, the way I think you bring in demonetization in the whole thing. In fact, it's one of the...
Pardon?
It's also very interesting to note that, you have how you bring in demonetization in the narrative. And in fact, the 2 points of, the narrative points is 16th November, that's a week after demonetization on November 8th. And the 2nd October, that's the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. And these 2 points, how they're sort of blended into the wider arc of the novel. If you could talk about these 2 sort of narrative points.
Yeah, this demonetisation becomes the backdrop of the novel, because that is the time when I started thinking or looking back into my own life. Actually, that was a trigger for this novel. But the immediate, or the real trigger came when Gauri Lankesh was murdered. So I thought there is some connection, or that journey from one point to the other was very linear, and it was then I realized that I had to go back to my origins, or my life, to find out the reason for many things which were happening around me. So, of course, demonetisation became the backdrop. I think that it has been something which changed the story of my country and myself. Right. I don't think the country was the same afterwards.
Absolutely. And, like your previous novels, also there is a deep undercurrent of feminism. And I think many of your characters, protagonists in your novels...
Oh, excuse me, Nivad, bit voice is...
Yeah, so I was saying that, most of your protagonists have been women. And in that sense, this novel is also closer to your previous works, that, it's the story of a middle-aged professional called Satyapriya, who is living in a big city, and then, this whole, state of affairs after, she is attacked by an unidentified assailant, and how she escapes unhurt. And then, she has a father who is paralyzed, and there are, a series of attempts to kill her. If you could talk about how you arrived at her character, and of course you draw a little bit, as you have said in in an interview before, that you draw a lot on your own in that sense. So if you could talk about the protagonist and what happens to her, and how that sort of you draw on the very personal to narrate the story of the political.
That's a very big question, no? Because answering that question means answering everything in my life. So the first part of the question was that I'm writing about women mostly. And the answer to that question is that that's because the men don't let me into their lives. No? So I don't know how the men think, and they never give away how they think and act and their experience. So that's always a secret. So I have to rely on my life and women's lives mainly. And on arriving at Satyapriya, as I told you, this is the story of the women of my generation. And of course, I thought I will relive my own life. It's not that all the incidents which happened in Satyapriya's lives have happened in my life, but emotionally, I have gone through many of the things, many of the things that hurt her or wounded her, of course. So it was easy in that way. That's why I said this is something that is Satyapriya is someone who has a lot of Meera in her compared to other works. Of course, Chetana in Hangman also has a lot of me, but that's not like this. It was like transferring a part of me into a woman who was living in Kolkata. But in this case, I was like reliving my own life.
Right.
So that's the difference.
How was the process like when you draw on your own life or fiction, and there is always this there's always this creative thing to take liberties. Of course, you take creative liberties in that, but then when it has to connect with the larger political developments in the country, how tough is that, or how easy is that? How did that work for you in Assassin?
Actually, that was very easy in the sense that, have you heard about that story where a child was given the picture of a country, the map of a country, which she or he was finding it difficult to join it exactly as it is, and then on the other side there was a human figure. So making that human figure right or correctly, arranging that correctly will automatically correct the shape of the country or the map of the country as well. So exactly like this, it was very easy to go back to my times, start from that 1970s and step by step recounting what all we have experienced, we have seen around us. And it was very easy. Then it really surprised me how much it had to do with the evolution of our country as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, that there is a deep undercurrent of what is happening.
Pardon?
No, there is a deep undercurrent of what is happening to the country also. I mean, if you the juxtaposition of the personal with the political, and how in the beginning of this interview you said,
especially coming from a middle class background, I think that is economics, which we were not taught on a day-to-day basis or on our personal kind of life. It's just in the textbooks, no? So this is the time when I realized that how economics and the government policies regarding money, currency, everything had shaped our ambitions, our dreams, our life styles, everything. That's really kind of shocking.
Right. You mentioned that, it was Gauri Lankesh murder that was basically the trigger, and that is when you started working on the novel. And I was wondering if you could talk about, that moment. Of course, it set a lot of us in deep shock. As journalists and as citizens of this country, we were really, really concerned. That something like this could happen. Of course, there have been political killings before, but this was like really, really gruesome in some way. And considering what Gauri had been doing as an activist, the kind of transformation that she had brought through her writing, and in the process has also ruffled many feathers. I was just curious to know that, that moment, if you look back and think,
Pardon?
If you look back at the moment and think how that affected you as a writer, as a journalist.
It really affected me personally to some extent, because there was an incident which connected me to Gauri Lankesh as well. So a few months before this, prior to this incident, she had published one of the translations of one of my stories, which was Bhagavan's death. So this was published in her publication. Then she also said that she would like to meet me, and was looking forward to meeting her as well. But then it came as a shock to see someone so energetic, so radiant as Gauri Lankesh was kind of killed like this. So it made me think about the kind of violence we are being familiarized with, or being thrust upon us. See, violence is nothing new to Indian women. As women living in India, we are always, we have normalized violence in our domestic lives, in our, when we go out, inside the house as well as outside the house, we have been subjected to many kinds of violence, emotional, physical, spiritual, every kind of violence is there. But then this was something, this is too much to adjust, because there was this political violence as well. So this is also the kind of response from the outside world, or those in power towards this assassination was kindly shocking, devastating. I don't know which word should I use, but this was kind of revealing a lot about our present mindset as well. So I think that a country which has gifted the world the idea of ahimsa and non-violence has come to this point where we are taught that violence is the first and the last way to deal with violence. And this is really shocking. This is disappointing.
Right.
So looking back, we feel that we all have been, we all have kind of part and parcel, or participants of this evolution from non-violence to violence. We were silent spectators, silent supporters sometimes.
Yeah, we all become complicit in some way, isn't it?
Pardon?
We all become complicit in some way in this.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Coming back to the novel, of course, a little bit about the voice that you choose. Of course, it's written in the first person.
Pardon?
The voice that you have chosen to tell this story, it's an extraordinary story, but also the way you tell it, that makes it even more impactful, in the sense that your narrative voice is, it's a first person voice. So there is a lot that you can do with first person. And, if you could talk about that choice of telling this novel in the first person, and how that sort of, came handy to as a narrator, as the protagonist.
This was the easiest way to narrate it, because I was retelling my own story, so it should be in first person narrative. It was the easiest way. And when I tell my story in the first person narrative, it is easier for me. Because I think I have more freedom when I tell a story in the first person narrative.
Okay, that is
yeah.
That's a device that's much more convenient for you as a fiction writer.
Yeah.
Right. I also wanted to ask you a couple of questions around, translation. Of course, you are one of the, writers whose works have been extensively translated, and most of your novels have been translated by J. Devika, including Handwoman.
5 of my books were translated by J. Devika.
Right.
Yeah.
And beginning from, of course, a little bit about Hangwoman and this whole, when in translation, of course, there's always this fear of, those cultural and linguistic nuances getting lost, in that act of translation. So if you could talk about a little bit about, your works, that have got a new life in another language, that is English.
Yeah, I am thankful to my translators, all of them. Devika, Ministhi, Abhirami and Biju, and then Rajesh Rajamohan, all of them have helped me to break the barriers of my language and go to other languages, other readers as well. So it's like they have given me a kind of new wings to fly outside my box or my small world. Right. So I am thankful to them for that. And it is it's very easy to work with Devika because Devika is a scholar. She's a poet, although she doesn't write poetry. So she has a good command of language as well, and she understands what I mean when I use a specific word or a usage. So she can see the whole. She can translate, understanding the whole perspective or my hidden intentions as well. All of them are very good. All my translators have helped me, but I was looking forward to Devika translating this text because we are of the same age. We come from the same background, same part of Kerala as well. She knows the dialects, everything. So it was like Devika was like my other self when translating this. Of course, I am interested. I am very particular about the English translation because most of the time it has to be correct. It has to be correct in the sense it has to be closest to the original because many people try to translate from the English text as we don't have people translators in other languages who are fluent in Malayalam as well. So English text is kind of a very important thing for me. So I'm and also I like to read. I enjoy reading English. So I am normally it is like we work together. And in the case of Assassin, I should thank Rinita Banerjee who had edited the copy. She was such a wonderful presence, and Rahul Soni who helped us in this. So it was like a very team effort, team work, and I enjoyed the whole process, although it was very laborious.
Yeah, I can imagine. Considering it's a voluminous novel, I think the 500 over 500 odd pages. So.
Yeah. That's why I am so thankful to Devika for. She's such a busy person, and she did everything on time, very promptly.
Right. And I was also curious to know about the novel's response in Malayalam when it was published, and some of the critical. If you could take us through some of the the critical response to the novel in Kerala.
Yeah, I am so happy that it was well received. This novel, it was serialized in a Malayalam weekly called Mathamam Weekly. Ever since it was serialized, there were
lot of
permanent readers for the novel. No? Right. So and this book actually it is very important in my life as well, my writing life as well, because this book has kind of exhausted me or drained me of all the energy I had till writing that book. And it was in between writing this book that COVID and everything happened. So it was like a very testing time. I was the whole process of writing was a challenge. I don't know the exact word to that to describe that, but it was. Looking back, it was like it's unimaginable to go through the same experience once again. But still, when it was published, it was locked down. The book came out, and the next day, it was locked down. The second lockdown, no. So I was so disappointed and so sad that this book is not going to reach the readers who were looking forward to reading it. But surprisingly, the next day I found a note on the Facebook where a differently abled reader, who is a voracious reader, Muhammad Hanifa, he traveled in his wheelchair to the bookshop and kind of overcoming all the obstacles by the police and everything. And then he got the book and he started reading that. So that book, note was on the Facebook, and it was such a relief. So from there onwards, there was no looking back. It rose about 30 or 35,000 copies.
Wonderful. That's a big number for regional.
It remained a bestseller.
Bestseller so far. Yeah. Right.
It rose about 10,000 copies in 3 months.
Oh wow!
Such a big book. Yeah.
Not too many English novels sell that that many copies. So.
Yeah, but in Malayalam, actually, I'm so fortunate to have such loving readers who make a point that they will read everything I write. No, that is dedicated to them.
Reading and writing, there's a tradition of, in fact, of reading and writing. I'm saying that Malayalam has a long tradition of reading and writing, and there's very enthusiastic readers there, isn't it? I mean, across languages.
Yeah. We are proud of being readers.
Yes.
Yeah.
There continues to be thousands of libraries there. I think most number of libraries that any state would have.
Pardon?
I'm saying the number of libraries, also bookshops.
Yeah. We had a library movement as well, which changed the landscape of our cultural as well as political lives. No, political kind of. Should I say the landscape was changed? So it had helped. We have libraries in every small village, and there is a state library council which is very active, and the district library council is supporting them. And it's like our reading and the number of readers, as well as the number of books, as well as the number of publishers, and as well as the effort in reaching out the readers is quite impressive compared to other states and other languages.
Absolutely. Meera, from here, let me just take you a little back in time to the days when you began, in fact. And I just want to ask you about, your decision to turn into full-time writer, in the sense that, you were a journalist with Malayalam Manorama, and then you decided you had to write. And a little bit about your literary inspiration, the kind of writers that you were reading at that point. And was it the year 2005, 2006, around that time, I believe?
Pardon?
Right? What was the year? Was it 2005, 2000, around that time, right? 2005?
Yeah. I started publishing in 2001.
All right. Okay.
So the first story appeared in 2001, that January 2001 issue. Okay. But then I had been writing ever since I started reading, I think. Most of the stories were written in my mind. Then after I started, I learned reading and writing, which happened about 3 or 3.5. I learned alphabets quite young, at a very young age. And from that time itself, I started writing. I used to kind of fabricate stories like that. When I read a story, I'll try to write another story like that. It was going on. And my mother's best friend was a writer, N.D. Ratnamma. So my mother had a great respect for her, and this has affected me. So I thought, okay, being a writer is something very important, very, very special. So I do want to become a writer so that my mother will be impressed by me too, and like that. Anyway, I think I don't know. I started writing at a very young age, and luckily, my mother was very happy about my writing skills and all. Then, after some time, I thought there were many talented writers. I couldn't compete with them, so it is better for me not to try creative fiction, and it was better for me to concentrate on journalism. And I chose journalism because I knew that I won't be as good in any other job where I don't have to use my writing skills. I'm so proud of my writing skills and my language skills. So that's how I chose journalism as my profession, and I was very happy to become a journalist. I had great dreams in journalism. Then I think I should have gone outside India or outside Kerala at least, because at that time it was the society had not that that progressive to accept that women can be like can do all those things. No? For example, I happen to be the first woman journalist in our newspaper, which was about 107 years old at that time.
Yeah.
So
and
it was like that. And, pardon?
When did you join the newspaper?
1993.
1993. Okay. So just imagine that in 1993, till 1993, they did not have a single woman journalist.
Exactly. In newspaper. Now, other publications, it was that, but in newspaper, where you have to work late at night, they were not happy. Actually, it was very difficult for them to employ women because the other infrastructure was not there. No, right. There were not hostels or rented houses which would accommodate a single woman or a woman working late at night in those days in Kottayam. Right. Anyway, but when I found that I had to write. Once I started writing, and when I came back to creative writing actually when there was this occupational stress was there, personal stress was there. So this was my way of detoxification, no? Like writing again. And there were some incidents which meeting some older women who wanted to become writers, who made me think that I too might want to be a writer, or I too might kind of repent for not publishing my works. And from that, then onwards, I started writing it. That's a long story. I don't know whether you have time, no? Meeting the women and how I decided that I should write, keep on writing. And then after I started writing, and luckily I was noticed very
quickly.
Very fast. I was once you get noticed by readers, and once you get feedback from the readers, there's no going back. It's like jumping into the ocean and you had to swim. No? Yeah. So I read all the other all the neglected dreams and discarded dreams came back, and I thought, okay, writing. I started enjoying writing creative fiction again, and I started writing, and I was into it. And at that time, our organization had a rule that the reporters and editors are not supposed to publish creative fiction in other publications. Okay. So I didn't want to break the rule, so I came out. I quit. Pardon?
It was a bit strange, though, no? To have a rule.
Yeah, there was a rule.
Okay.
That you are not supposed to write poem. You can write only in that publications, literary things at all. Okay. You were allowed to write in special issues, but not on the regular issues of other publications. Other rival, they were not rival publications because our organization didn't have a literary magazine like that. But still, literary weekly.
Yeah.
Again, I thought I shouldn't break the rule. I came out. That was in 2006. I quit my job. And it was like jumping into the middle of the ocean once again with all the financial burdens and all. But still, somehow I reached the shore. And I'm so happy that I had written only 2 or 3 books, maybe four or five small short story collections, small novellas. When I resigned my job. But after resigning, I started writing a lot. I could write everything I had written because I quit.
As you said, that the stories were already there in your mind, right? So
yeah, the stories were already in my mind. All stories are there. This is a big problem which I face because every time I have a lot of stories in my mind which are always disturbing me, and I cannot concentrate on any other thing, even in the family issues. So I am an absent-minded person most of the time.
all creative geniuses are.
Pardon?
All creative people are like that. So
yeah, but
a little bit of absent-mindedness.
Yeah, but other people may not understand that.
That's true. That's true. But then you always wanted to write in Malayalam. I mean, you seem to be very proficient in English as well, but you always wanted to write in Malayalam?
Yeah, I used to be very proficient in English till I finished my MA in communicative English. In those days, I wanted to write in English. I was quite confident about my language. But after that, for about 25 years, I was working in a Malayalam newspaper and was writing, speaking, and reading Malayalam. Reading English occasionally, but most of the time I was writing Malayalam, and I was not writing in English, which actually affected my confidence in the language. So these days I'm not confident that I can write in English, and I don't want to, in fact, because writing in Malayalam and translating it into English, translation is another skill, and it is very, only gifted people can do that, no? Reading in one language and enjoying that in another language. But what I'm saying is that I wish to write in Malayalam because this is a very small language spoken by just 33 million people. And you know what? I'm so proud that we can produce such fiction in using our words, so.
Absolutely. There's no denying that. Yeah. And there seems to be growing interest in Indian languages. Like, you have Tamil novels making it to the book long list, and a Hindi novel winning the prize, in fact. So there becomes, again, there is a politics of language as well. And it's important that we tell our stories in our own language. That's very, very important.
Yeah.
And that's why the reason why I asked the question is to do with the fact that it's a very conscious choice and not
actually I have to disagree on one fact that the literature in Indian languages were always like this. Exactly. It was always, we had a very vibrant regional literature, the treasure of regional literature, but which were not translated enough to reach other audience, other readers.
It just become more visible now because it's available in
visible now. Maybe there are cultural factors also, because nowadays it is a global village, and we can easily understand each other, and we have found equivalent words, or even compared to the the bygone days, no? So
yeah. Coming back to your writing, Meera, I wanted to understand that it all in English it gets translated really, really well, and I was just looking at this novel, for instance, Assassin, and the language, of course, is simple. The sentences are short, but there is a certain beauty to it all, in the sense that every now and then you have one single sentence which is very profound. This is a statement on the polity, on the patriarchy, on the feminism, and are the gender roles and how sort of, as I mentioned earlier, a kind of commentary on the society and the nation. And I was just curious to know how it all comes into play when you're writing. Is that something that you have to think about, or it just comes naturally and seamlessly?
It comes naturally.
Right.
Once that structure is complete in my mind, structure means that comes as like a visual where the whole story is depicted. Then there is not much to do for me other than to copy it down and to support it with my own observation and rules. I think I have this idea of a book that sorry, when you finish reading the book and close the book, something should be there other than the main story thread.
Yes.
So that takeaway is kind of the essence of the book and what is going to remain with you.
Yeah.
So I think that part is made up of the individual observation or the how the writer views the world or describes the world in her own words or his own words. No?
Right.
So there is there are only 7 human conditions.
Right.
In the whole world, and we are just using the permutations and combinations of these 7 conditions to create so many language literature, all the local literature, everything. So what makes each work new is the question, and I think that it is kind of the observation or the deep insight into life which makes each and every work special.
Absolutely. Meera, thank you so much. It was really lovely talking to you. And I, wish you all the best for Assassin. Hope it reaches readers everywhere around the country. And are there any talks going on to sort of publish it abroad as yet, or is it something?
I'm not sure. I will have to ask. I am not concerned about that right this moment, because it's like holding Assassin is something very exciting for me, because never before a book has the original was there, then editing it first as a serialized edition, then editing it, then translating it, and it has taken about 5 years from my life. So
thank you.
Once it is dedicated to the readers, I can move on to the next book.
Absolutely.
And which is very important for me to write again, because I'm as years pass by, this feeling of forgetting things will be there. I am always frightened of dementia. So memory is an obsession for me.
Right. Do you take notes then? How do you? What do you do to sort of tackle this fear?
No. Everything is in my brain.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, it's like carrying 2 or 3 buildings inside the brain, no?
That's a beautiful way to say it.
Yeah.
Buildings of maybe several worlds inside your head. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like unfinished structures.
Right.
Yeah, here and there.
Well, on that note, I do hope that all those unfinished structures finally get a form and beautiful forms.
Thank you.
It was really lovely talking to you. Thank you.
It was lovely speaking to you too, Nahat. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you, the Federal as well. Thank you.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.